piece is the slightly oldish version of my workshop that I had on my machine here today. But these are all the different things that you will need. You will need to submit an application. With the common application has kind of grown to be fairly popular. We can do a poll. How many of us do the common app here? Actually, only 3 universities here, so it's not grown to be so popular. You will have an application form that you will fill in online, which will ask you a lot of questions, and it just doesn't ask you your name and your date of birth, etc. It asks you a lot of questions about your activities, etc. You are unlikely to submit any cover note, but write some essays. We'll talk about that. You'll need your transcripts that you will submit, which are essentially your scores from class 9, 10, 11, and whatever is available in class 12. That's typically what you need to submit. Remember, you are applying when you are in the middle of class 12. You aren't applying after class 12, you are applying when you are in the middle of class 12. So you will need whatever is available, maybe a half yearlies or some predicted grades that are available while you apply in class 12. So all the class 12 students here would look at beginning their education if they were to come to the US in August of next year, and they typically apply this year in November or December. The resume or your profile, you might not need it separately. The application form can be quite comprehensive, but in some cases where you feel that you aren't able to represent all the activities that you've been involved in, you might actually put together a profile, which is an activity profile, where all the things that you did outside of your academics or your transcripts. We talked about the SAT. You could do either the SAT or the ACT. You could do the TOEFL or the IELTS, either of those exams. But you want to check with each university whether they need the SAT or the ACT or they don't need either. Most universities will accept both the SAT and the ACT. So you can appear for either of the exams. Universities will give it equal weightage. All of us who would give equal weightage to SAT and ACT, can you raise your hands please? You'll give equal weightage to SAT and ACT. Okay, wonderful. So for most of us, are the others not considering the exam at all? Is that why you didn't raise your hands? Okay. So you can appear for either of those 2 exams. You may or may not need to appear for the SAT. It's a common myth that you cannot go to the US without the SAT. You can come to the US with or without the SAT, and in the event that you are unable to appear for the SAT or have a low score on the SAT, you should not get despondent. We'll take your questions on that. You might also need to write an essay. Yes, sir. So the AP exams, I didn't realize I had it there. Okay, sorry. So the AP exams or an AP course allows you to get credit. If you are, what are the different curricula we have in the room? IB and CBSE. So as an IB student, you do HL courses, you do 3 HL subjects. Those HL subjects can earn you credit or can save you time in the first year of college in the US if you score well in those subjects. For the CBSE students, you are more likely to appear for do an AP course or give the AP exam. That will put you in the exact same position as the IB students are with their HL subjects. The similar situation with A-levels also, where A-levels, you are doing IGCSE, but that doesn't count for credit in college. But the A-levels, when you do the A-levels, you could also transfer those credits. So sometimes you could save 6 months in college because you've done AP or IBHL courses. So that's essentially what it is. Yes? And we'll take more questions on that. Raise your hands whenever you have a question. You just stop me because I don't know how to stop when I speak. So you have to stop me. And then you might have to write an essay, which is actually quite an important part of the application. You will have an application fees in most cases. In very rare cases, you will do credit evaluation. You typically do credit evaluation if you ended up applying as a transfer student. Suppose you decided that you're not going straight after class 12 and that you will prepare for the SAT and wait 1 year or 2 years. And in the meantime, you went and attended some college in Bangalore. Now you can no longer apply as a first year student. You will apply as a transfer student. In those cases, you might need to do a credit evaluation for the university for them to evaluate how much. So you suppose you did 2 years of college year, they will then see how much credit they can give you. Maybe they give you only 6 months for those 2 years. They give you 1 year, they give you a year and a half. So a year and a half worth of credit is what you could get. Most of us going after 12th grade don't worry about credit evaluation. You will not need to do it. Financial documents are needed typically only after you have received admission so that you can get the documentation for the visa. However, some universities want it with the application. They will not process the application until you have demonstrated financial ability, capability to pay. So it varies from one university to the other. It's always very tricky to talk generically about US education or US universities and their admission process. So I want you to be aware that go around and ask individual universities about the process. Keep your teachers happy. Some universities will ask for recommendations. They are often to be submitted online. If your teachers are happy, they'll give you strong recommendations. So if you've done well, you might need 1, 2 or 3 recommendations depending on the university. And in some cases, there's also an interview that you might need to do. That's pretty rare, but it does exist. So you might have an interview that you would have to do. So what are the things that you want to do and what are the do's and the don'ts with this process? Don't compare yourself blindly with other students. I often saw in my counseling career, students came to my office and said, "Sir, here are the 8 universities my friend applied for last year. I want to apply to these 8. And so many times there's a relative who's saying, come to this university, it's very good. But they were actually talking out of their experience for a master's or a PhD program that some other fellow had been doing there. At the undergraduate level, the university didn't even have the major that he wanted to do. He couldn't combine the subjects. So this advice that you get from outside sources, you need to really vet it. The best advice comes from alumni, students who are at the university, or somebody who's really had some experience going through that process, and listen to all advice but choose to follow what is relevant for you. Because there is nobody just like you. You are a unique being and there is nobody just like you. So there is a university that is the right one for you, or there are a bunch of universities that might be a good fit for you. They're not necessarily always the recommendations of other individuals. So I would not compare. You would not want to compare yourself blindly, not compare your list of schools with those of other students. You don't need to apply this. There's too much diversity in the US. So don't need to compare your list. Rely merely on rankings. I mean, rankings are an extremely complex phenomenon. Ranking is one parameter to choose a university, but it's only 1 out of 20 parameters. If we just say, oh, this university is ranked number 2, in another ranking that university is number 40 or 25, it doesn't make sense. You want to study international business or marine biology or aviation or art and design or psychology or journalism, you know, you might want to then go and look at, I want to do journalism. What are some of the schools of journalism? You want to focus on your major if you're clear about your major. So don't just rely on rankings. I don't want to get into too much on how to choose colleges unless you have some questions. But share information about schools with other prospective applications. You know, it's good for you to apply, but I have seen the whole class in some schools apply to the same university. Because you're just saying, okay, come apply, I'm applying to this university. So suddenly now, I don't want you to be secretive either, but don't give advice on Facebook to everybody that come everybody apply. You are applying to a relatively selective school and you are inviting the whole world to apply to that selective school. It's good for the school, but it might not be good. You might not get admission. And it has happened in cases where I've had 20 students, when I went into a school, 20 students applying to the exact same set of 6 universities. Now chances are, the more selective of those 6 universities will not take more than 2 or 3 of those, or maybe 1. They'll not take all those 20. So you want to be careful, not just to, you know, randomly invite the whole world. And then don't be humble, because I've seen this also. You need to be truthful, but don't be humble. Oh, I did this project, but it was a small one. You know, it really didn't make any difference. Well, you put it there. Let the university judge it. Whether it is small, insignificant or significant, let the university judge the project. So, you know, again, this is a slightly older version. So I'm not focusing on the do's. But the one do that I would tell you is, in the application form, fill, and fill. Which means, whatever you have done, however small you think it is, you mention it. You will be completely truthful, completely honest, but you would make sure that all the things that you've done, because often, coming out of India in particular, we feel that some of the activities that we've been involved in are not significant. But for an American university, that activity might be quite significant. I raised some money for the National Association of the Blind, but you know, I only did it for like 2 weeks and I only raised like $500. So it's not a big deal. But the fact that you had that intent of service might be really important for a university in the US. So you don't want to, we judge ourselves a lot. We just constantly are self-critical and judgmental of ourselves. You don't judge yourself. Let the university judge. You put all the activities down. That is the key. So, class 11 or earlier is when you focus on, you know, building your profile.